When you think about reading a book, how do you feel? I hope it gives you warm, positive feelings like it does me. Maybe you feel a sense of comfort because you were read to at night as a child. Or maybe you feel a sense of relaxation because you associate reading with being on holiday, feeling the sun on your face and having a great book in your hand. Or maybe it's more exciting than that. You feel an adrenaline rush because when you read, you love to understand the world a bit better. All good feelings, and I'd like to leave them with you while I tell you a little bit about my story. My name's Claire Bale, and I have many identities. I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter and friend. I'm a dancer, a cat lover, a blogger, and very much a bookworm. It took me until my 40s to add activism to that list. Because activism, by its very nature, requires action and doing something differently. So I'd like to share with you how I took my love of reading and did it differently, turned it into something more. Back in the summer of 2020, when the Black Lives Matter movement resurfaced on a global scale, I started to reflect more deeply on racism in the world today. I'm sure many of you can remember that time and doing something similar. I thought about my habits, where I spend my time and energy, and of another of my identities, that of a mixed-race woman living in Britain, with a beautiful mixed-race daughter whose generation, I hope, grows up in a world that is just and fair. One of the most important habits I thought about was reading, because I've always been a bookworm. As a child. My husband will tell you I still look like that if I'm interrupted too often. As a student, where I studied at university, English, language and literature. As a London commuter in my 20s, where our book club was very much a wine club too. And nowadays, I will still choose reading over most other pastimes. It's not that I'm not enjoying being here, but I would love to be home reading one now. So, I thought about the books I'd read, and I realised I'd only read a handful of books written by authors of colour, despite having read thousands of books in my time. I've studied some of the better-known ones at university. Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, Alice Walker's The Colour Purple, and my gran had introduced me to Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. But that was about it. I could name them on one hand. I learned that the British publishing industry has 94% of published authors are white, and 90% of people who work in that industry are white, despite only 80% of British people having that ethnicity. This imbalance means that the same points of view and the same stories are circulating around and round. It's no wonder British people grow up not understanding Black history. Did you know that African people lived in Britain as long ago as 253 AD? When parts of Africa were part of the Roman Empire, just like Britain was. We didn't just arrive with the horrors of the slave trade, or on the HMS Windrush, when people in the colonies were called to rebuild Britain after the wars. Black people are just as much a part of history as everybody else. And it wasn't just history I was learning about. I also became really rattled the more I learned about racial equality today. We're far from racial equality. The ethnicity pay gap currently stands at 23% in Britain. And perhaps even more alarmingly, racist hate crimes have gone up since Brexit. Last year, for the first time, racist hate crimes exceeded 100,000. That equates to 273 every day. So I decided I wanted to read only books by authors of colour that summer. I wanted to educate myself and do a little bit in my habits to redress the balance. It wasn't always easy. In fact, it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster at first. No single book by an author of colour doesn't tackle the topic of racism somehow. My books unearth some uncomfortable truths to me about the world today, and in fact some of the privileges that I've had as a mixed-race woman with a light skin tone. In The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett, for example, I learned about 1950s America, where black people with a pale skin tone could choose to pass as white, because even though it meant leaving their families and communities behind, they were guaranteed a better life. It's hard to read. But it wasn't all trauma. My books also helped me feel seen and represented and celebrated as a mixed-race person. Something as simple as reading Cameron's routine of pineappling and wrapping her hair every night in My Best Friend's Girl by Dorothy Koomson was so nice, because it's something so everyday for me, but I'd never come across it in a book. I soon decided I wanted to extend my decision beyond books and beyond the summer. I started to seek out groups that hadn't necessarily been in the mainstream before. I prioritised films and plays and fashion by people outside of the mainstream. And it's something I'd recommend to you. If you want to start to do something towards activism, seek out those groups that haven't always been a priority. It's so easy to just go with what's on trend and not critique what those voices in the media are saying. It's a lot of fun as well to find these new people. I'm still reading books solely by authors of colour now, and back when I began, I decided to blog about it. It was scary at first to talk about my feelings and my community history, but I wanted to be generous with what I was learning because I wanted to invite other people to participate too. So I started my blog, and I dedicated my Instagram page to my books. I began to add my voice to discussions in the local media on topics in the news. And I decided to be brave and really share points of view on topics I was only just starting to understand in this deep way. Honestly, one of my favourite parts of the journey is the way that having those conversations has helped me connect with people, not just with the stories. Every recommendation I give and receive, every book that I receive as a gift or give to someone else, is such a wonderful thing. I've also enjoyed some really lovely opportunities to connect with my wider communities too. I became a trustee for the Nottingham UNESCO City of Literature. I've started working with local news to give a point of view on any woke issues they want to talk about. And I've also stepped into a new career in diversity and inclusion full-time. I feel really proud to be shaping a new chapter in my story. It's not one that I could have predicted, but it's one that feels absolutely right. So let me circle back to that first question and tell you how books make me feel. They make me feel empowered by the knowledge they give me and inspired by the stories that I learn. And they make me feel motivated to do everything I can to make the world a more equal place. So, I'd like to ask you, when you go home tonight, to find something that you can connect with. Of course, I'd recommend books, but whatever works for you. I believe that if we all find a way to connect more deeply with the world around us, we'll understand it better. And that's how we turn the first page in making the world a better place. Thank you.